Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking on a massive hurdle that literally every single student, professional, or lifelong learner has wrestled with at some point. How do we actually retain the stuff we're trying to learn? Our goal today is to completely transform your study sessions. We're going to take them from that passive, repetitive reading that just makes your eyes glaze over and turn them into a highly effective, scientifically backed system of learning. We are going to build your ultimate playbook. But first, let's bust a major myth right out of the gate. This whole idea of effortless flow. We all secretly want learning to be easy, right? There's that old Garfield cartoon where he tries to learn by osmosis, or, you might have seen that hilarious real-world video of a kid in a classroom literally taking his textbook, putting it on his head, and trying to physically wash the knowledge down into his brain. It is incredibly cute, but guess what? It doesn't work. We've known for hundreds of years that real learning doesn't happen by osmosis. It takes actual friction, it takes effort. So if effort is strictly required here, how do the best of the best actually apply that effort? Well, our playbook today is derived directly from an incredible peer-reviewed study that analyzed the habits of exactly 700 highly successful medical students. Think about that for a second. These are people mastering insanely complex information, sometimes literally in a second language. By looking at their proven daily habits, we can extract the exact mechanisms of their success. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is it lays out our practical step-by-step roadmap for today. We're going to cover 1. Finding your academic aspiration, 2. The daily focus checklist, 3. The Teach One protocol, and 4. Mastering knowledge through self-testing. Starting off with step 1, find your academic aspiration, or the long-term fuel. Before we get into the biological, tactical how of studying, we really need to understand the why. Look, when researchers asked these top-performing medical students about their motivation, the answer wasn't always that they just absolutely loved the material. Because, let's be real, sometimes you're going to take a course that is just an absolute grind. Instead, these top students relied on a really long-term, abstract belief about how their success would impact their families and the entire arc of their lives. It wasn't about the specific details of tomorrow's test, it was a huge aspirational goal. This is absolutely crucial, because when your motivation wanes and that daily fatigue inevitably sets in, that high-level abstract aspiration is the fuel that literally pulls you forward through the friction of those challenging subjects. Which brings us to step 2, the daily focus checklist and engineering your environment. To structure our day properly, we first need to understand a little bit about the biology of our attention span, and that brings us to adenosine. Basically, adenosine is a molecule that builds up in your brain and body the longer you're awake, and it's what makes you sleepy. Think of it as a strict biological limit on your daily attentional budget. When you sleep, those adenosine levels are pushed way back down, and your budget is totally refreshed. Because your focus is a limited but renewable resource, scheduling your really intense study blocks when your attentional budget is high is absolutely critical to your success. So what does this look like in the real world? Here is your literal daily checklist based on those top 700 students. Number 1, schedule specific study blocks. They don't just study when the mood strikes them. Number 2, put the phone away and go offline. Literally turn off the Wi-Fi if you have to. Number 3, isolate yourself to study alone. Group study has its place for sure, but the absolute best performers do their initial learning in total isolation. And finally, number 4, study for about 3 to 4 hours a day, but never in one shot. They break it up into 2 or 3 distinct sessions. Putting away that phone and isolating, those are absolute non-negotiables for this level of focus. And this brilliantly illustrates what happens when you actually commit to that schedule. If you stick to studying at the exact same times every single day, your brain physically entrains to these biological rhythms, just like your sleep-wake cycle. Day 1 is going to feel like high friction, it's going to be tough to pull your attention to the page, but by day 2, your brain is adjusting. And by day 3, your nervous system starts to perfectly entrain to that rhythm. You will literally be able to focus better simply because your body expects to be focused at that specific time. Moving right along to step 3, the Teach One protocol, sharing for selfish mastery. In scientific laboratories, there is a very famous progression for learning super complex procedures, like surgeries or crazy chemical reactions. It goes watch one, do one, teach one. And provided it's safe to do so, applying this exact progression to your studies creates absolute mastery of the material. Step 1 is that isolated learning we just talked about. You watch or absorb the material alone. Step 2 is practicing the material yourself. But step 3 is where the magic happens. You teach it. As a super practical plan for this, find 2 classmates, schedule a 20-minute coffee session every single Friday, and take turns presenting that week's absolutely hardest concepts to each other. Now, I want to directly address a fear here, the worry that helping your classmates somehow gives away your competitive advantage. It is incredibly clear from the data that students who learn in isolation and then make a very specific point to teach their peers perform exceedingly well compared to everyone else. Teaching your peers isn't just giving them a freebie, and it certainly isn't putting yourself at a competitive disadvantage. It's a highly strategic tool. It is the ultimate test of your own proficiency. It's how you cross that bridge from just kind of knowing the material to developing actual, genuine virtuosity in it. Okay, step 4. Master knowledge through self-testing. Flipping the script on quizzes. This final habit requires a fundamental shift in how we view the most dreaded part of school, tests. So, the crucial point is, let's do a pop quiz right now. Can you name the first 3 habits on our daily focus checklist from just a few minutes ago? Seriously, think about it for a second. Did you get them? Schedule specific blocks, limit distractions by tossing the phone away, and isolate yourself to study alone. Now, why in the world did I just do that? I didn't do it to grade you. I did it because practically demonstrating this forces you into active recall. When you reach into your brain to pull that information out, you are physically strengthening the neural circuits that hold that memory. See, we really have to flip the script here. The old view is that testing is just this stressful tool used by teachers to evaluate your knowledge. The new view, the science-backed view, is that testing yourself regularly is heavily researched as the absolute best active tool to build and retain memory. It literally offsets forgetting. So as a practical guide, do not just passively reread your notes. It's a trap. Instead, use a technique called blurting. Close the book entirely and force yourself to write down everything you remember on a blank page. Use flashcards. Give yourself mini pop quizzes. You have to replace passive reading with highly effective active memory building. To bring this all together, we have to acknowledge the reality of this playbook. Isolating yourself, battling adenosine levels, teaching your peers, and constantly quizzing yourself. Look, these habits are challenging. They do not feel like effortless flow or learning by some magical osmosis. But as we've seen from hundreds of top-performing students, effort is the cornerstone of learning. The friction isn't a sign that you're doing something wrong. Actually, the friction is the exact mechanism of your success. So I leave you with this final question. Are you ready to embrace that friction? You literally have the exact blueprint now. Find your long-term aspiration, implement that daily focus checklist, isolate yourself to learn, but teach others to master, and test yourself relentlessly. Don't sit around waiting for the perfect moment. Take these daily checklists and completely transform your own academic journey starting tomorrow. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.